Hello and welcome to a new Google Sheets video in Practical Sheets. Today we're going to do a multiple selection dropdown. You could say, hey, but you've already done like 2 of these in the channel. Today we're going to do part 2, where I address some of the questions you've had in the comments, particular variations of the dropdown. I'm going to show you what we have. What I have is what it seems like a normal dropdown, but when I choose a second option, it will list all the options and I can have multiple selections. So this was done with Google Script, and I'll leave the link in the description where you can go to the first video. In this second video, we're going to do some variations on this same topic. For example, we're going to be able to do it in multiple columns. For example, I want to do it in column 2, in column 4, and column 5, or in a range of columns from column 2 to column 10, or in different sheets, in 2, 3, 4, 10 sheets, or a mix of both. I want to do it in multiple sheets, but in different columns. In this sheet, I want it in column 2 and 4, and in this other sheet, I want it in column 3 and 5. So these are the variations we're going to address. I know you're going to love it, but before we begin, let me thank my Patreons. Without them, this couldn't be possible. Their support is excellent. And if you want to become a patron, you can go to the link in the description and download these and more than 150 templates we have over there, and you can ask me anything about this variation, about these codes and more. If not, just subscribing, thumbs up, commenting, this all helps. Thank you so much, and let's begin. I normally don't do this since a couple of years ago. At the beginning, I did multi-part series, but I always try to begin from scratch and finish in a single video. I'll do the exception. I don't want to begin from scratch because this video was very popular among my Patreons particularly, and there have been several requests that repeat itself. So I'm going to do a part 2 where I'm going to start from the original code we did in the last video. So I invite you to go to that last video, and then if you have questions or possible variations, come back to this one. But still, I will go very quickly. If you don't want to go to that one, I'm going to explain very quickly what we did here. We created a multiple selection drop-down function. So what this does is that if I choose any category, normally Google Sheets only allows to select one category, no multiple selections. So via Google Apps Script, we made some modifications. So if we choose a second category, it will put it in a list. And even if I repeat, I have also set up in my code that to delete duplicates. So it's a really nice possibility. So today I'm going to address some very common questions on this code, but first let's review what the code does and see where can we modify it. So the first thing, so we have a multiple selection drop-down function that has an E. An E is an object that, in the case on edit, in the moment someone writes something in a cell and hits enter, that moment this onEdit function will trigger and it will bring an object E that has some information. The information that is most useful for me is the value and the old value. That is what I have just written, GH, and what was before. In my case, there was nothing before. So with only these 2 variables, I can do a lot. So what do? I get via another method. I could also get this with the e.range, but I prefer to use this getActiveRange, but it's just a matter of taste. I choose the active cell. It's important for me to know in which cell the user is. And from that cell, I need some information. I need basically the row, the column, in which sheet is the user at, what is the name of that sheet. Everything I get it with some methods, get row, get column, get sheet, get name. And with the E object, I will get my new value, the value I just wrote, and the old value that was the value that the cell had before. So this is the first thing, the information about what the user has edited, which cell and what value, okay? Then I'm going to have some parameters. This is not going to change, basically. This will stay the same in any of the variations we have. What may change is the second part. The second part are the conditions I want for this to apply. For example, if I want my multiple selection to apply in the column 2 or B, this is where I'm going to change it. If I want it to apply only, not applying this header, but only from the row 2, I will change this. If I have 3 headers, then I will change this for 4. and so on and so forth. Here I will set the sheet where I want it to activate. Okay, so these we're going to play a lot with this in this video. Then we have the conditions. So how does the information about the user and my conditions, how do I relate them? We are also going to play with this. And finally, the real code is just a couple of lines. It's going to see some conditions, some additional conditions. It's going to see if here there is some value before, if the value is empty. For example, if the new value is empty, so if I delete it, then I will keep this as a blank cell. Another condition is that if the old value was empty, then I will put the new value without any problem. But if the old value was something, then there are two possibilities. The first possibility is that there is no duplicate value. For example, here I have reading, I have gardening, and then I choose photography. If this happens, then it's going to concatenate the old value with the new value. That's it. If it does find it, for example, I choose photography again, then it will just leave the old value and remove the duplicate. Okay, so this is basically it. And now let's start with the variations. The first variation, a lot of you have asked me, is that I have another column. Let's say I have hobbies 2. And I also wanted to apply. So the first thing I want to do is to apply this drop down also here. So I'm going to data validation. I'm going to choose my rule. And here I'm going to choose another range. I have B2, B1000, and then I'm going to add another range that will be, let's choose it here, B D2 up to D without a row. And now I have my dropdown in both. But if I choose another one, the code will not apply because I told them to only apply to column B. So I'm going to start doing these additional functions. Duplicates, this will be called, for simplicity, I'm going to say MSD, that is multiple selection dropdown, and we're going to start writing the variations. The first variation is 2 columns. So if I have 2 columns, then I'm going to call this differently. This will be called call dropdown 1. Rename the symbol, and I'm going to put an underscore and 1. And I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to create call dropdown 2. And this will be 4, because now I have it in 4. And here I'm going to modify my conditions. I'm going to put parentheses around this condition. I'm going to copy. No, actually, let's do it. I'm going to use this. Some people call it bar or pipe. So, well, just call it, I don't know how to call it. Let's call it the bar. And I'm going to create a new condition very similar to this, just active call double equals to call dropdown 2. This double bar represents an OR condition, a logical condition OR. So this means that either this has to be true or this has to be true, any of both. So if active call is 2 or if active call is 4, run it and we'll be okay. Okay, so let's save it. The only thing is that I'm going to change in my onEdit this for MSD2 columns so that it will work. Let's save and let's try it out. Gardening and photography, and then dancing. And then if I do it again in my column 2 and add writing and then yoga, then it works in both columns. Okay, so this is the first variation. And if you need more columns, then the first option would be to rinse and repeat. So let's do column dropdown, call dropdown 3, call dropdown 4, call dropdown 5, but this is not efficient. So let's see how can we do the same thing, but leave it open so it will be very easy to add new columns. I'm going to minimize this function, copy it again. Actually, I'm going to put them up here so it's easier for us to access it. So we're going to call this MSD multiple columns. So the other one just works for 2. We're going to create one that will work as easy for 2, for 3, for 20 if you want. Okay? So again, this won't change. What will change is this. But instead of having to have many variables, when you have a lot of variables, there are 2 ways of grouping variables. One way is called the array, and the second way is called the object. In this case, I think an object will work really well. So I'm going to change this to lowercase and call it columns. That's it. And I'm going to open square brackets because it's an array. And we're going to list our columns. In this case, we have just 2, 4. But the idea is that this will work if I put then 6 and 7 and 8 and whatever. Okay? For now, let's leave these 2 that are the ones we have here. This will remain the same. So what I need for my code to work is that my active column is either 2 or either 4. In other words, that is one that matches any of the elements in this array. How can we do it? Actually, it's very simple if, once you know how to do it. You're going to do columns, index of, and inside parentheses, you're going to include the active column. So index of is a kind of match or a VLOOKUP. It will look active column. Let's say I am in column 2. The user is in column 2, so my active column is 2. And when I run this, it will take this array and look if the number 2 is in there. How do I know that it found it? Index of returns the position of the element, and the minimum position is 0. When it does not find it, it will return -1. So the important thing is that this is greater than -1 or different than -1. Any one of both will work. So if columns.indexOf active column is greater than -1, it means if it found it here, and it should work. Let's do it again. But again, we're going to change this for MSD, multiple columns. Let's save, and let's try it out. Let's do dancing, and it works. And let's do here bird watching, and then painting, and it works. And now let's add another one, hobbies 3. Data validation, go to a rule, hitting this square, then add another range. The range will be this one, F, without an ending row. Okay, and the only thing we need to do is go here, and in this array, actually, if you want, you could have the array at the beginning. So it's very easy for you to modify. And let's just do comma 6, save, and let's try it out. Painting, and then dancing, and then let's do dancing again, and it works great. Okay, so this is the second variation that I have multiple columns. We already see 2, but in here you could do whatever number of columns you want. Another possibility is that you want this to be open to multiple consecutive columns. For example, from 2 up to 3, 4, 5, 6. So I don't want to put here, and let's say it's 20 columns. So I don't want to put here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up until 20. So maybe there's a way to put a minimum and a maximum, like the lower range and the upper range. So let's try to do that. I'm going to copy these MS2 columns that I think it will be more similar. And let's call it MSD range of columns, or column range. So instead of column dropdown 1, I'm going to say call lower limit and call outer limit or upper limit or minimum and maximum, however you prefer. So in my case, let's say we're going to do it from 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 6. So let's change our dropdowns, data validation. Let's change it here. I can remove this and just move my range up to F. Done. Let's close it. And let's say I have 6 columns of hobbies. 3, 4, 5. 5 columns of hobbies. And here it will go up to 6. The starting row is the same, the name drop down is the same. So this will be also very easy. The difference is that active column should be not equal, but greater or equal than the lower limit. And it should be less or equal than the upper limit. But here, when I say and, so remember this is an OR operator. I need an AND operator. The difference is that in the OR operator, any of both should be true. In the AND operation, both should be true. So I need this to be greater than 2 and lower than 6. So this is why this should be an AND operator, double ampersand. Let's save it. And let's change my function here. MSD column range. Save it. And let's try it out. Perfect. Here. And here. Excellent. Okay. So now we've seen 3 cases, 2 columns, multiple columns, and a column range. Another possibility is that you have 2 columns but with different data. So let's say I have hobbies and here I have languages, whatever. And let's leave this again just with 1, data validation. Let's leave it only for B. Let's remove this. And let's call this languages. So we're going to create a new dropdown. This right here, dropdown. And let's write English. And let's go drop down from a range. And let's choose here our languages and leave it open if we have multiple languages. Remember, it's very important to leave this show warning. Done. And let's leave this open until D. Done. Perfect. So how would you do it? There are 2 ways. First, easiest way is just copy the function. So you will have this. Remember, this is the original function. I'm going to copy it and then paste it. And then you would say drop down. This will be called the languages. And you will just change a couple of things because the main still is main. The column drop down will be 3. And I think that's it. So let's save it. And let's try it. So now we're going to test it. But for testing it, I need to put both functions in the onEdit. This is what I need to change. Here, I'm going to put first one function and then the other function. So now let's save it and let's try it out. The first one should still be working and the second one should also be working, but with the other options. And here drop down, remember to change it for 4. This is why it was not working. Let's say, and let's try it again. Perfect. Now it's working. Okay. So the nice thing about this code, unintentionally, is that the original dropdowns are created manually. This means that it does not matter if the dropdowns are different. So it was just an exercise, but I actually don't need to have 2 functions. Any of these other functions will work. Even if you have, for example, the one we said that it had from 2 up to 6 and each dropdown is different, it will still work. So this is also nice. It does not matter if the dropdowns come from a different source or not. Okay, 2 last in this variation. The first one I have been asked is that what happens if I have another sheet where I want this to work. So let's add it here and let's call this more data. And I want this to also work there. So it will be very similar to modifying the conditions as we did here. So let's use, for example, this basic one. the multiple selection dropdown in column 2. So the first thing I need to do is that in more data, I need to also create my dropdown. Let's see if this works. Data validation. I'm going to go to B, and the apply to range, I'm going to try to use the more data. Perfect. I think it works the same. So I'm just applying the hobbies to another sheet. So remember that given that the one we're going to duplicate is this one, it will only work in one column. So let's call this MSD multiple sheets, or 2 sheets better. So it will be very, very similar. But instead of putting 2 conditions to the active call, we're going to put 2 conditions to the active sheet name. So we're going to have name sheet dropdown 1 and name sheet dropdown 2. And we will put with the bar operator to know that it's an OR operation. But we already have seen that there is a better and more scalable way of doing this, that is with the array. So we can do the same with the array. Let's call these sheets. And we have one sheet that is called main and the other one that is called more data. And then you could include whichever more you would like. And here, instead of active sheet name sheet dropdown, we're going to do the same we did for the columns. Sheets dot index of active sheet name, and this should be greater or different than -1. And now it should work. Remember that this will work just in column 2. Let's see if it works. So let's try it again here. I'm forgetting one thing. I should change this for MSD to sheets. Let's try it out. Perfect here. Here it should not work because I'm just using column 4. Perfect. And if I go to more data and try it out. Perfect. Now it's working in 2. And if I want more, for it to work in more, well, the same. There's a nice thing we could do here is the reverse, is that I want it to work everywhere but in one sheet. For example, in this case, I want it not to work in options, but in all other sheets I create, I want it to work there. So let's copy this function. Let's call this ms2 but one sheet. And let's say we don't want it to work in the sheet options. It's very, very similar. Actually, I forgot to remove this name sheet dropdown. I didn't need it anymore because I have it in my array. Let's remove it from here also. So I'm going to say is that sheets index of active sheet name should be -1. If it finds it here, if it's option, then don't do it. Okay, let's save it and let's try it. Again, this will only work in column 2. Let's try to do it here. And it works, and let's try to do it here. And it works, and now let's try to do it here. Let's not do the dropdown. Let's just click reading and then do needing. It does not work in options, okay? Perfect. I'm going to hit F1 and start writing fault all and hit it so that I minimize, so that I fault all my functions. Now you have enough functions to mix it up, because maybe you want several sheets. Actually, this, I should call it multiple sheets. I think I executed the wrong function, but this should work anyway. So now you have several functions that you can mix and match depending what you need, because maybe you need 3 sheets and with a column range or with different columns. The problem is that if you need in this function, in this sheet to have 2 and 4, and in this sheet to have 3 and 5, then none of the functions that I've described or that I've explained will work. So let's do it. Let's change this to C2. And let's add another range. Let's try this. Let's D2, E2, and E1000. Okay. Perfect. So, and here I wanted to work in 3 and 5. So how do I do it? We're going to use these multiple sheets as a template. And let's call this multiple sheets and multiple columns. So I already have my sheets here. What I propose, there may be many ways of doing this, is that instead of main, I'm going to have an array. Here I'm going to have this main will be inside an array, and this more data will be inside another array. And let's just hit enter so that we can see it clear in a more clear way. Okay. So now, as a second argument, I'm going to put my columns. So another array, so it'll be an array after an array after an array. This is a three-dimensional array. And here I'm going to put my columns. In main, I told you I was going to use 2 and 4. And in more data, I'm going to use 3 and 5. And then, again, you could use however you want. The columns you need 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever. So now I will also remove this column dropdown. I don't need it anymore. So the first thing is that I need sheet index of. I don't need sheets index of, but I need to look in the position 0. So there are a couple of ways of doing this. I'm going to do it step by step. Maybe there's just one method and we can do it, but I will do it in 2 steps. The first step is searching for the name that my active sheet name is in any of these 2. So let's try it with this. Let's do sheets dot find, and for each sheet, let's look that the sheet in the position 0 equals to active column. Let's see what does this return. And for this to work, I need to use this function. Let's copy it, let's paste it, save it, and let's try it out. So let's go to our executions, and there's an error because this returns null, because this was not active call but active sheet name. Okay, let's save it again. I'm going to run it here one more time, and it's bringing the array I want. Excellent. This is I need to fix this, but at least it's returning what I want. Okay, so it found this is the let's call this sheet row. So my first condition will be that sheet row exists, or even better, sheet row dot length is greater than 0. Okay, so that it's an array that has at least one element. And the second thing is that sheet row in the position 1, that is the array where I have my columns, this one, index of, the same we did before, index of active column is greater than -1. Actually, this condition, because if I have it like this and this doesn't exist, this will give me an error. So I'm going to take this condition, cut it, and put it in another if. So my first condition is that the length is greater than 0. And then the second, and when it enters there, once it enters this condition, then it will look for the other one. So I'm going to take this, put it inside of this. I have this ampersand alone, so I'll save it again. Perfect, let's try it out. So here it should work in 2 and 4, and in the other one should work in 3 and 5. So let's see it. Perfect, 2, 4, and here it should not work in 6. Excellent, and in more data, it should not work in 2, but it should work in 3, and it should work in 5. Okay, so this was a bit more complicated, but the main thing is that you could add as many arrays you want with first the sheet and then the columns where you want it to be able to work. There are other conditions, but I think I'll leave it for another video regarding the appearance of these. Maybe I can reorder I can alphabetically order my options. Maybe I can put it in different, separated, for example, like this: French, English, Spanish. I could even put kind of bullets like this and more. So, but I'll leave this as a teaser for another video because this went too long. So I hope this works for you and it answers some of your questions. Thank you so much, especially to my patrons. Without them, this would not be possible. And if you want to become a patron, just go to the link in the description, or if not, subscribing to the channel, thumbs up or commenting, it helps a lot. Thank you so much. See you next time.